Hello everyone, this is Mark. This is just an idea of what I've been doing lately. This is a Bedini wheel. John Bedini developed a circuit. It's on the internet. It's accessible to anyone that wants to get to it. What this basically is, for anyone that's not familiar, is a Bedini circuit is a very efficient electronic circuit that uses resistors, diodes, and transistors. And what I'm going to try to show y'all is just a rough idea of what I've done. I've taken the components that they call for in the circuit, the transistor right here, the diode, I don't have the numbers here in front of me, the 1N4001, I believe is the one on the transistor that bridges between the emitter and the base, and then they have I believe it's a 480 ohm resistor coming from off of the transistor to eventually go to the the top trigger wire of the coil. The coil is composed of number 22 and number 26 magnet wire. I bought a half-pound spool of the 26 gauge magnet wire and a 1-pound spool of the 22 gauge. I used a 4-inch spool right here that originally I used to have wire from when I did beekeeping to wire my frames with. I emptied all that off and used that to wire my spool with. I intertwined the number 22 and the 26 gauge wire together, and I used the entire 1-pound roll of 22 gauge and an equal amount of turns of the 26 gauge. But even after that, I still had this much on the roll, which I don't know how many feet that is, or the weight of it, poundage, but this came from bulkwire.com. It was originally 629 feet. I don't know how many feet I actually used of it, and I do not know how many turns I have on the coil. All I know is I have a full 1 pound of 22 gauge magnet wire and an equal amount of turns of the 26 gauge on this coil. I did not use the copper Lincoln welding rods that the original plans called for, but what I used, because it talked about having just an iron core, this is some wire, some rebar, sort of like reinforcing wire that goes in a concrete slab. I don't know if you can see the gauge of it, but I cut the little segments of this wire up. It's very rusted. It had been laying out in the dirt, and I cut that up into cut it into the small pieces to use for the core of the thing. Jammed them in there like it was talking about, making them tight fit. I used wood glue, of all things, to help secure it in place, because it had such a rusty coating on it. I didn't have to paint it. I did not have to paint these individually, because they were not making good contact anyway. There was so much rust on them. But so I have not quite exactly the core that it calls for, but it does the job. As you can see, my wheel is spinning quite well. I have 9 magnets on this wheel. The wheel is the same as this one right here. I had a couple of these. I think they're old wheelbarrow tires. They're 10-inch diameter wheels, and I use regular threaded rod for my axle. As you can see right here, it's just a simple threaded rod. I have one nut on either side of center to help secure it in place, with a little bit of tape to help keep it from slipping. It's very crude looking, but it gets the job done. So far, I have discharged my batteries, my charging battery. I have 2 batteries on the charging side, 1 on the primary side. I have discharged the charging batteries for about an hour and a half on a 65 watt bulb, then put them back into the into the charging cycle. And I don't have the exact numbers, but I'm fixing to do a real legitimate test on that real soon. Over here is the next one that I'm building. This is a 27-inch aluminum frame wheel that I bought at a local cyclery shop. Wooden frame and everything. I'm getting ready to, this one will have 18 magnets on it. And it turns very easily. I've got it lubricated real well with the lithium based grease on the bearings. And I intend eventually to have about 8 coils on this circuit, on this unit here. I'm going to start off with one, check it all out again, and after I get all my magnets mounted to the wheel and everything in place, I'll slowly build up to where I'm hoping to have about 6 to 8 coils on this to see how efficient I can get this system. Anyway, just wanted to check with y'all. As you can see, my shop is very filthy, very dirty, very cluttered. My wife thinks disorganized, but I seemingly know where most everything I need is. Thank you. Goodbye.